Right, perfect. So the series is inspired by the Swedish novel and the film, which I loved. Have you guys were aware of the film and the novel? Have you seen it prior to the role in your preparation?
Yes. Saw it and read it.
Saw it and read it, and thoughts about when you first signed on to the project. Like, what were your initial feeling coming on board?
Well, I was able to read a couple of scenes, of course, beforehand, and so I knew that it was going to be adapted in a different way, which I think is necessary to be relevant for this moment, to live in New York City. There had to be some changes. I think they're good and smart changes. I think it allows the city to really live and be a character within this piece, which is so character-driven. I love the fact that it is really about humanity and our struggle to retain our own humanity in a world that is constantly challenging you. And I was glad to see that. I mean, there are some aspects in the book that I'm actually quite grateful are not in the show because it's really, really heavy. And you know, there's enough heavy stuff going on in the world right now. We've got a significant portion of deep and disastrous things happening without pulling everything out of the book. And I also think that nobody wants to watch the movie in TV form.
Yeah,
you know,
you want to see a span of 10 episodes, right?
Yeah. So how do you make that something that is able to live and grow? I don't think you can, because that's a very finite space.
Yes.
So I think that we have something that is allowed to do that, and in a different and interesting way, and allows you to want to hang with it and figure out what is the thing that's going to happen next.
It's great. Yeah, I was really drawn to when I first heard about it, because I really love the original, but to see how it's going to be adapted into a series, I was quite interested in how do you span it over 10 episodes and keeping the same love of the characters, but then putting them maybe into different situations, or really expanding on the relationships that they have with the other characters from the movie as well. So, any other thoughts on?
Yeah, I mean, for me, the only way to adapt this into a television series was to make it its own thing. It's, I mean, these are all original characters, these are all original storylines, but when I started developing it back in early 2018, it was after reading the novel and watching the film dozens and dozens and dozens of times, because I love them, because they're two of my favorite works of horror. It's astonishing. And so for me, it was about trusting that those stories were kind of in the DNA when we created the series. And then, as Anika said, though, why would, you know, they're perfect in their own right. So I felt like they created an enormous source of inspiration to tell our own story that these fabulous humans are bringing to life. But it wasn't really ever for me a question of how do we try to simply do what's already been done on the page and on the screen.
I also enjoyed how the meaning behind the show, showing the lengths, you know, a father would go for his daughter. Also, you know, how it related to the situation that we're in, kind of continued in now. Ellie and Peter were infected by this virus, and kind of like how everybody else was infected by COVID-19, and they all went into quarantine, just kind of like how Ellie went into quarantine for the past 10 years and has been on the run. So
that's very relatable to today.
You know, piggyback on that question, what did you take from the book or from the movies that you wanted to make sure carried over into the series?
Yeah, you know, for me, one of the many things that makes the film and the novel so special, I'd say the most important thing is this exquisite relationship between these child characters, one of whom is kind of a child and kind of not, right? Yeah. Kind of human and kind of not. It's also a story that takes really seriously what it means to be a vampire, where the stakes are enormous, and it's not like you put on a pair of Ray-Bans and walk outside and everything's cool. And then the third aspect was that in this sort of dark, cold, literally dark and cold setting, it was a love story. You know, that's how that film and the novel always spoke to me, was as a love story between humans who are isolated and hurting, and finding a connection through each other, a connection that may be dangerous, but a connection that also might save them. And that became, all of that is essential to the story we're telling, even as the narrative opens its arms to a whole new set of characters, a new central relationships between Mark and Naomi. It's those core tenets are, to me, what make Let the Right One In, Let the Right One In, and are certainly part of our series as well.
So nowadays we're basically with 2 vampire shows. Interview with a Vampire has Gloria, which is a child as well. So what do you think that draws people to child vampires? Because it's like a new thing. In Dracula there were no child vampires, and then we expanded in the vampire mythos.
Yeah.
And then we have different characters.
Yeah, well, I think, and I'm going to turn it over to our child vampire. The only thing I will offer is to me, what's beautiful about the horror genre is it invites us to go right into our real fears. What if something horrific happened to our children? And I think that is, that's part of it. Another part of it is it's kind of an amazing metaphor for what it is to watch your child grow into whatever little monster creature they're going to grow into. So I think that's another part of it. But I want to also turn it over to our actual child vampire.
Yeah, I think what will draw some people to this show, wow, that completely popped out of my mind. I think what will draw some people to this show is, this show explores the hardships of being a vampire and the challenges that come with it. And I don't think, even if it's explored with other shows, I don't think it's ever been showed in a child form. I think people will be interested in seeing how a child will cope with being a vampire and how it affects everybody around them. Same thing with Peter's storyline. And I think people are going to be interested in how that affects everyone.
This question, sorry, go ahead.
No, go ahead.
This question is for the man. You've had experience with horror before, especially with The Nun and in other movies. What do you bring from that into this one? Was there anything or anything that you brought from any other horror movie that?
The only reason I keep on exploring the genre is to see if I can get rid of my fear for horror. Because I don't like horror. I'm not a big consumer of that. I don't like to pay to be scared. So yeah, but the only thing that it was clear is that it's way more fun to do it than to watch it, at least for me. And it's just a coincidence, Sometimes I'm always drawn by the script, and when they gave me that script on the Nun, and then the Grudge, and this beautiful story right now, this great adaptation. It's all about what's on the paper, what's right there. It's a solid script. It's not a really crazy, group of elements. A rich character, three-dimensional character, and this is truly a Shakespearean character in many different ways. I'm always looking forward to extend my own range and step into territories that always make you nervous. Territories that I sometimes I'm afraid of exploring, and then boom, here I am, and I don't have any other choice, because I'm right there on the edge of the cliff. So my only choice is to just trust, jump, and fly without a safety net, and hope to land on my feet.
What about in terms of just really quick, what has horror taught you doing the movie? What have you appreciated from the genre, from just making the series?
One thing that I really appreciate that I've seen firsthand making the series is the amount of work that goes into the effects. I think that those people are amazing. The people also that build our sets are amazing to create something that when you're looking at it, even though you know as somebody, a person of the world, that that could not possibly be the case, it absolutely looks completely real, and why would you think otherwise in that moment? They're phenomenal. Phenomenal.
We have time for one more question.
Ooh.
No pressure.
No, so you know, in vampire films, usually we begin with one vampire, and then we have like two vampires, and then we coven, and then we explore, you know, the world. What was the first vampire? You know, the different international vampires. So are we going that into territory, or you're gonna keep it small?
We always wanted to start small because one of the tenets of the show was that every vampire had to have significance. You know, we never wanted to get to a place where we just launch into a horde of vampires. And I mean, that's the other thing that was so beautiful about the film and the novel. And of course, there are other vampires that are created and introduced in the novel, but it really makes each one count. And I think what you can do in what a television series is you can start with one and make the second one really important, the third one really important, but you can't start with 40 and go backwards. And so it's that's what we did. And then the other thing that you get to do when you have a single vampire is you get to build a relationship. Like these two, well, like with that killer suit that he's wearing right there.
Didn't do anything.
Only they could see.
Oh yeah, we can see it. Maybe I can take a photo like after with the killer suit.
It's blue and gold.
Okay, there you go.
There you go.
Thank you.
So that's, I mean, to me that is a big argument of why you really keep the focus on, as you say, two vampires in our show, is because we really wanted to explore relationships and starting with these two individuals. I'm just so blown away by these two little humans right here. I mean, they don't get enough credit for what they do in the show. These are very, very complex, difficult roles, and they're acting and sitting at a table with, you know, a Tony Award winner, an Oscar nominee, some of the best actors of their generation, and I dare say they hold their own, and they and it's pretty remarkable to watch them work.
It is a joy to work with children who are still children, but also so dedicated to what they're doing, that enjoy what they're doing, that can have fun and do the job at the same time. It is a joy to be on set with them every single day and to watch their growth day to day and month to month. It's really, I think it's an honor to be able to see someone at the beginning of their career and know what is going to happen. And it's inevitable because they're just really, really good and beautiful people.
And this is not an easy script, I imagine. You know, the topic is quite heavy, so
it's pretty intense.
I'm definitely going to be intrigued and looking forward to catching it.
Well, and on that note, I'm going to ask the press if they can switch over to that table and let
Thank you so much.
Thank
you.
Thank you.
Gracias.